We have put more than $200,000 into veterans outreach, which we sent to community college for training. The Cleveland Public Schools, in partnership with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, received $100,000 for programming for students who have student learning and skills through music education. You know, everybody learns differently. So we have that program in place. We have a prisoner reentry program, which received more than $400,000. The Cleveland Department of Public Safety received more than $300,000. Sherwin-Williams Corporation received $2 million to fund research. Case Western Reserve has received over $1 million, and the list goes on and on and on. I want to talk to you about what has come out of the Recovery Act, because people keep saying we don't know where that money went. Trillions of dollars went to that $250 you received as a tax credit, or $400 if you're a family. Most people don't realize that the Recovery Act, 1/3 of the resources in that act were tax credits. So those things went out very, very quickly. But let me just give you some idea of where those big chunks went, because in this community alone, we have received more than $84 million in research and technology, some $3 million for education, another $26 million for medical research, most of that going to Case Western Reserve and our university hospitals and the Cleveland Clinic, more than $20 million in financial assistance for economic development activities, and more than $28 million for defense projects. When we look at all of the things that we've done in just this district, we have assisted in bringing more than $80 million in new market tax credits to our area. People talk about job growth and how we spur job growth, but the one thing that we're doing is not just talking about it. The Congress is doing it. We're doing it. These new market tax credits are going to help new businesses that come in here to get started. We have spent more, or we have received more than $580 million to weatherize low-income homes. We've received more than $139 million for development block grants, $28 million for public safety, and it goes on, and you have the list. But I want to say this one. I want to pull two of them out in particular. Education. The 11th district, the 11th district has received over $1 billion for Head Start and Head Start expansion and early Head Start. If we don't give our children a start, a Head Start, especially those in areas that are of the highest need, we're never going to have the kind of workforce we need. We know for a fact, those who are educators know for a fact, that a child entering kindergarten should know their name, their parents' names, their address, phone number, and should have a vocabulary of about 250 words. Our children from our poorest districts have a vocabulary of about 50 words. They don't know their names and addresses and phone numbers. If we don't get these children early, we have lost. I don't care how much money we spend. We will end up spending more money on prisons than we do on education. We got to start now. Also want to talk about workforce development. We have received more than $100 million for worker training. What I have said to those who have talked about a jobs program is if we don't find a way to train unskilled workers, we will have a permanent underclass in this country. There are people who have not had a job in 15 years, 20 years. We talk about doing things like roads and highways, and yes, it's important. We put in this area alone more than $200 million into, $136 million into transportation. But people who don't know how to build a road or build a bridge are still unemployed. People who have lost their homes because of unemployment, we have to do something to train these people. And I tell you this, one of the largest growing groups of unemployed workers are veterans. They're homeless. They have no skills. You can't translate shooting a gun and artillery to everyday life. So we need to make sure that we put our people back to work. And we have to start with those who have the least skill, those who need to work the most. We have to begin somewhere. Now, people will say, oh, she said up here she's a bleeding heart liberal. Absolutely, I am. And let me tell you why. Because what I know is something that people never really think about. The job of government is to take care of its people. That is what government's job is. We look at all of these other things that people say government should do, but our number one job is to take care of our people, to deliver services to the people, whether that be trash pickup, snow removal, or whatever it may be. But our job is to provide safety, security. That's our job. No matter what level of government you are, our job is to take care of our people. That's what I'm doing in Washington every day, is to try to take care of our people. And not only because do I believe that, but I'm also a Christian. And so I know that we have to do the most for those who have the least, because those who have the most really don't need my help that much. So we have to do what is right for the people we serve. I want you to also understand that we've got a long way to go in this country. We have, in my opinion, one of the best speakers that you've ever seen. I know that Speaker Pelosi just gets, just ripped in the newspaper every day. But when you have a caucus as diverse as our caucus, think about diversity. We must have 100 caucuses in the House of Representatives, at least. I'm probably in 8 or 10 of them myself. So everybody has a different opinion. So when you bring strong-willed people together and can bring them together and make them make a decision, I think she's done a fabulous job. She's done a fabulous job. As well, what we know is that she is carrying the president's agenda. It is our president. We voted for him because of the agenda he gave to the American people. He made a promise, and we want to help him keep it. So we are working very, very hard to make sure that we carry out the president's agenda. Now, we don't know ultimately when all of this is going to turn itself around, but do let me say this to you. There is no one with whom I work that is not doing the best they know how to do. We don't mind criticism. We really don't. It's a part of what we do. But what we want is constructive criticism. What we want is people who understand what our job is and will help us be the best at what we do. I get calls all the time. I said to some people here today who said, thank you, Representative, for some things that we've done. We don't hear a lot of thank yous, and I don't necessarily need to hear it. You know, because sometimes I wake up in the morning after we have voted at midnight, and I just pat myself on the back because I know that we've done some really good things. But what I want you to understand is that this is a Congress who is going to do everything we can to make sure that our children are educated, to make sure that our poor are fed, to make sure that we can create jobs for everyday people. We're going to do everything we can to be on the cutting edge of energy. They're over in Copenhagen fighting right now, but we've already passed energy legislation. I talked to a group of people the other at one of these big manufacturing companies a week or two ago, and they were talking about how we needed an energy policy, and they were giving us all the song and dance. I said, look, this Congress and this president passed an energy policy. We're doing the work we know you need to have done. It may not always be the way you want us to do it, but we're dealing with 535 people. If it was just Marcia Fudge's way, then I would do exactly what I think you want. But we're dealing with 535 people from all over these United States. The power of the free world sits in that building with me every day. And they all have constituencies they represent, just like I do. Some of them rich, some of them poor, some of them diverse, some of them not. So it's hard to bring 535 people together. So when you ask me, will I vote for the health care bill? I don't know. Because first off, I don't know what's in it. And you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. So with that, I thank you so very, very much for your attention. My pleasure. Very nice, very nice.